Okay, here we go. This is going to be part 3. Now, this is going to be similar to the hollow rounded cylinder that we did last time, but there's going to be a central hole on it. And I want to talk about the positioning of that and how we can change the visibility of objects to better see the sketches that we want to draw on. Okay, so in the last one, we did a lot of stuff with how we set up different ways to draw that rounded cylinder. So for here, I'm just going to be trying quick and dirty about it. Still highlighting that there's always different ways. I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle because a lot of times I try to have trouble setting the turning off the auto perpendicular constraints. I'm going to delete this top one here. And so then that way I already get my rounded pieces that I want. And it's again, just keeping in mind how you can kind of build different stuff by stitching different pieces together. So I'm just going to build a couple 2-point arcs, build a couple 2-point arcs, and then escape. And then I'm going to want a line joining these two. Go ahead and take that. Okay. And then I'm going to drag this up a little bit because I'm going to add a vertical constraint, and you can kind of guide them to help them go around. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to make these coincident, joining these points here and these two. And then I want these two arcs to be concentric. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You have a constraint here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make those centers coincident. One of the things that I like to highlight with constraints is that there's a bunch of different ways to get to the same place. And I think I talked about that in some of the other um, extrude videos. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to continue with these constraints. I'm going to add a tangent constraint. Let me just go ahead and highlight these two. There we go. Tangent constraint. I'll make these two tangent. And then I should probably have my base face. Oh, I got to do one more. And with this one here, I want this point parallel, or excuse me, collinear with this up here. So I'm going to click this line, and click this point, and I can just make them coincident. And that point's going to sit on that line. Then we'll have a right angle, because when you're doing revolves, you want the angles to be parallel on the lines with your axis of rotation. So we have that here. I'm gonna put these relative to the origin. I'm gonna make that coincident to have that lock in, and I'll make that point coincident. Boom, there we go. And now we have our general size, which we can kind of drag and manipulate. I always like to kind of take my constraints and get my shape first before I put the dimensions in. I think I've talked about design intent before. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'll bring back my part to see my dimensions. It says draw the object shown, 60 and 30. That's going to be 15, 15, and 100 tall. Okay, there we go. So I'll say dimension. I'll make this 15, go from here to here. I'll make this 15, and then that's going to keep this top one having the same. Yeah, okay. And then I'll go with dimensioning again, and I'll go from here. Oops, had that selected. Want to go D for dimension. You can use the hotkeys. Click the origin, and then this point up here, and then that should be 100. There we go. All right, so finish my sketch. I'll go back to a home view, and then I'll go in and I'll add the revolve. I'll go for create the revolve, my profile selected. I'll just make the axis here. I can also make the axis down here. You can talk about design intent on whether you want model edges or the actual axes geometry in your points. I'll just use a model edge right now, even though it'll be the same. All right, and then boom, there we go. All right, so I have that, and I want to put the circle in the middle. So what I want to do is I'll go ahead and create a sketch. Now, over here you have your eyeballs that you can turn on and off, and sometimes you can like select under things, but that's be kind of different. But one of the things that's also kind of cool is that you can also just pick them directly. So I can go here for my XZ, and then if I have that selected in my feature tree over here, or browser, excuse me, and then I click create sketch. Boom, I'm creating a sketch right on that. Now what's interesting is that I'm still drawing through all of this, right? So I draw on that and it's really hard to see, but if I rotate it, you can see it's kind of in there. But this is where we can kind of change the visibility of things, all right? And there's a couple different ways we do that, but you can go down here, highlight to where it says display settings. You can go to visual style and I can make it wireframe, right? And then you can kind of see it and it's still there, and you can hide that in a lot of different ways. But what that does is I'm going to go back to the default with shaded with visible edges. There we go, boom, which is normal. You can also go over here to the browser and we can turn the bodies, and I can just highlight those, but there's only body. I can just turn all of them off, and boom, and just have my sketch. And I can go back here, change my view, and then I like to use, I could dimension them straight up, but I like to use guidelines a lot. So I'll do a line from the center to the center to center to the origin. And then I can select this and I'll go over here to says where it says line type, and I'll click that to make it a construction line. Construction lines aren't tied to feature commands like extrude and revolve, so they're really good for creating guidelines and custom constraints. So I'll click this, I'll make this horizontal, a vertical constraint, and then I'll press the D key. I'm gonna start using hotkeys, so I don't have to keep moving back up to the browser. I'll click here and say 30, boom, and then I want to make this, the dimension here was 20. So then I have that, and I can finish my sketch, and boom. And I can go back here, turn my bodies back on, and it's right there in the middle of it. Also, my sketch is down here too. So remember, we can change the visibility down here with the display settings. You can go to the bodies, or you can just select, you can hide and show the bodies, or you can just literally select the features in the browser over here. So now that I have that, I'll go to create and I'll just do an extrude. All right, and then I can click on that since that's highlighted. There we go, got that. And I can grab this arrow here, I'll pull it out, and there we go. So remember that we can do different things. You have join, cut, intersect, basically what it shows you, different things. And again, it's interesting to kind of think about, there was a join, to think about models as the combination of different geometric objects. So I'll change this to cut, and I'll just go ahead and make the distance here all is nice because with design intent, like if you just know you want a hole to go there, like if I came back here and if I wanted to change this, keeping it all reduces the steps I have to do when I come back. So I'll hit OK, and then it's going to think, and then boom, there's my part. Okay, so pretty simple. All right, so since we're doing this, I want to go ahead and just do another option, and then I can just go in, and you know how you have to go and save. I'm not going to save after this, but just to file, save in Fusion. There go screen captures, and this will say this is part 03-1. Save that. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and start a new one up. Now what I'm going to do here is I talk about design intent, and right here, before I switch away from this one, I want you to notice where the world origin is, right here at the bottom of the part. So one of the things I always like to keep in the mind with design intent is that we can locate different features of different plates, and this is really helpful when it comes to making assemblies, because when you're thinking about, you have parts that want to be lined up next to each other, where you put the origin and how you define things can make your mating, assembly, and manipulation much easier. So it's just always about thinking forward. So what do I mean? How do I actually implement this thing that I'm saying? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to just do a simple part design, because I'm just doing one part here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did before, and I'm going to start by drawing my sketch here, and I'll just do this again. How do I want to do it this time? I'll do it the same way. I'll just go and I'll draw a rectangle. I'll draw a 2-point rectangle. Try to do this faster this time. And I'll go create my arc again, 3-point arc. I guess I really could have just drawn it off the same one, but it's good practice. All right, so we go zoom out a little bit. I'll go here. Now you'll see it gave me a couple auto constraints, and since I don't care as much, I'll just try to get it done. Let's go delete that. Oops. There we go. That button. Okay, then we go line. I'll turn the calculator on. Okay, line to here. Go ahead and I'll make this vertical, and then I'll go ahead and I'll make this tangent, and then this time I'll grab these two and I'll just make them concentric. There we go. And do the same thing. So it's kind of interesting because making these two arcs concentric versus making their two centers coincident, different constraints, same kind of effect, but you can really take advantage of that, especially when it comes to dealing with circular edges, because sometimes the math gets weird. So I'm going to finish this off by putting this coincident with that, and then boom, I have my general shape. So, oh, I did this backwards, but that'll be fine. So what I want to do is I'll do my sketch dimension here. No, actually, I'll go from this line. I believe I kind of did this backwards. Escape. Dimension, click here, and then boom. And I want that to be 30. Okay. And I'll go here. I'll go here. I want that to be 100. Okay. And then I want this point to be vertical with that point. Oops, there we go. No, we want to do, or coincident, excuse me. Well, I mean, it'll make it vertical. There we go. All right, and then I'll dimension this, saying that this is 15. Oh, there we go. All right, and then dimension from here to here should give us 15. All right, so we're back to where we were. Oh, and I mistyped that. Oh, all right, 30, and then 100. Oh, goodness gracious. So this is actually really interesting, because this is why it's also interesting on how you kind of make your constraints, because in kind of messing around with it, now I've kind of put it in a way where mathematically it evaluates the same. So when I talked about making these arcs coincident versus making their centers coincident, um, because basically it treats sketches as like one big math equation. So that's why this happened. And so with this one, a lot of times I'm just gonna just delete it and start it up. But it's always hard to find examples to kind of show this. But the more you model, the more they just kind of show up. So that's really kind of like a happy little accident. Like, I can channel my inner Bob Ross here if anybody's familiar with that. Happy little accidents. But yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things about CAD for me in general, is repeatability on some stuff. Because I think about models, geometric models, as really gigantic math equations, right? And so when you sit down and you create all of these relations, every sketch, I mean, in an abstractive way, because I'm not going to get like too like nitpicky about it, but it's basically a really huge math equation. So again, I'm going to make the centers here coincident this time. So this is that thing I was talking about, versus making them concentric. It gives me the same thing, but it makes the sometimes actually exactly like this. And it's not like I have a hard like list on how all of these things work out, nor like you could make one, but honestly, you just need to know that it's like sometimes the math makes stuff weird. Um, so uh, so it's always good to think about how you define these things, and that you can get to the same place. And you talk about over constraining, and actually a lot of this, if anybody has done any drafting or something like this is why, again, when it comes to CAD, I do think that 2D drafting, like actually physically making drawings, is a really good practice to have, because a lot of it just comes down to thinking about like how you're making the thing. And I mean, it's like art stuff where everybody has, oh, I did over constrain something. What did I break? All right, so, okay, this isn't that serious. Click that too, that one, and then, okay, there we go. All right, probably had something clicked that wasn't supposed to be clicked. Um, but yeah, just thinking about how you're going to create that relationship, and with the constraints, right? Because of how I'll do the full 100 here. And this is another example. Like, there's a difference between, you know, setting this to 70, right? Versus saying, rather than define that, if I go and create another sketch, I make this length 100. Now, mathematically, they resolve the same way. And, you know, it's kind of like the equality of like math and things like that. But as far as what the design represents, this is different because, like, if I put, this is going to be really boring to watch, but this is super important. It's super important to think about, and a lot of people miss this. I think, well, I don't know, a lot of people miss it. Saying that's 70, right? So my reference point is this center here, and then I have 70 on top and 30 at the bottom, right? And if we think about the variability of something, then it's how each one of these has its own thing. So how it can change can be different, or specifically with the actual location of this hole that we're going to put here, right? So, like, you know, we talk about manufacturing tolerances or plus or minus 5 thousandths of an inch, but since we're doing metric, let's just say plus or minus a millimeter, make the math easier, right? So this dimension up here can be as big as 71 or 69, and this one here can be 29 or 31. And actually, just because I'm rambling now, if you read this in the comments, let me know if this explanation makes sense, because sometimes I get crazy when I say this stuff. And honestly, I really just want to like find better ways, because I think this stuff can be understood. Just sometimes people explain it in weird ways. So if I go back here and if I put this dimension here to 100, boom, to there, and if you imagine both of these are plus or minus um, a millimeter, so this can be as big as 99. Oh, I really wish I had drawn that circle first, but actually, you know what? Bump it. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a reference circle here, because this will really help me explain what I want to. And man, I feel bad about how this is going to go. Well, I think this is useful. So anyway, okay, boom. So now we have this imaginary circle, which we'll actually use as a reference for our next sketch. But if I go here and if I make this 29, and if I make this 99, right? So both of these there's a tolerance of plus or minus a millimeter. This distance right here, 29 minus 20, that'll give you 9. I would do a reference dimension here, but I don't feel like doing all that. Just 29 minus 20, 9 here with that, right? So, and then I can go the same thing with, like, if I do 31 here, and then if I do, I'm actually probably going to, oh no, this doesn't matter. Okay, and I'll do like 101 here, right? The distance here, 31 minus 20 would be 31 minus 20, 19. Goodness, it's having to do math on screen. All right. So making those changes here versus setting that and how the tolerance stack up is how things can change. So it's very important to keep that in mind, and a good thing to keep in mind with design intent, and it directly translates to drawings, right? So, and there's a little thing that you can see there if you caught it, but I'm not gonna talk about that. But anyway, so I have that set, okay? So I'll go ahead and we talked about the design intent with the dimensions there. I'll finish my sketch. And this is actually really cool too, because you can just kind of put reference sketches on other stuff, because I like for ways to tie sketches together, because we can find individual things in our feature tree. So if you can kind of organize your feature tree, and you can throw reference geometry on different stuff. Let me actually just do this while I'm revolving it. And you can throw reference geometry on different stuff. But what's nice is that if you make individual sketches, sometimes people think about making it really cluttered. You see how I have this here now. I'm just going to draw this and keep talking about this. So what you can do is that when you put things on different sketches, and I'll have to make that visible right here so you can see it, I can create links between those sketches. So even though this is sketch 2, there we go, yeah. Hopefully, I feel like I screwed something up, but we'll see if this works. Even though this is sketch 2, I can take this drawing, click this, select this reference sketch of my other sketch, and I can just make this one, I'll make it concentric, and then I'll also make them equal. I feel like they're supposed to be a co-radial one, but I guess we'll just go with equal. Boom, right? So it's tied to that. So so it actually exists on this sketch. I'm gonna finish that sketch. Boom. So now I have sketch 1 and sketch 2. Hide sketch 2, you see the outline of that on edge 1. But then if I hide sketch 1, boom, you can see sketch 2. So I have my sketches lined up with each other. Plus I have my center as my reference point. Now when it comes down to it, what I can do is I'll just go ahead and I'll do my revolve here. Click on that. And then I'll select this guy as the axis. Let me go ahead and Oh, that's an extrude. That's like the wrong thing. Cancel, excuse me. All right, revolve. I'll select here. Give me that. Nope. Okay, go ahead and select my axis. Boom, got that. Extend type full body. Oh, the object I'm creating is not visible. Okay, that's fine. I'll deal with that in a minute. Please toggle visibility in the browser. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so it's fine. I knew what I was doing. Don't worry about that. All right, cool. But I'll toggle visibility next time. Now I'm going to do my extrude to pull this out here. I'll go ahead and, oh, give me that. I'll pull this out here. There we go. I'll toggle visibility. Boom. There we go. All right. And then, I mean, it's good. I think it's good to be able to conceptualize stuff. And I think that the more like that you can hold in your head with stuff, it helps you move faster, but everybody can do it a different way. All right, that's gonna be all, boom, okay. And then there goes and then I can kind of hide that sketch too because I don't want to see that. But boom, there you go. There goes my initial part. So just the difference is that on this one, we put our origin right in the center to help with design intent. And this one, we just drew it straight up where the origin is right there at the bottom. Now for smaller parts, obviously doesn't matter. So it's, when you're doing smaller stuff, you can just do it as fast as you want, go through it. When you're doing stuff that's going to be bigger, more complicated, or going to need to match up with other things, thinking about where you put the origin and how you stagger your features and where you put them is kind of your control, can help you go back and edit your models faster. So again, it's just, I wish we talked a lot more about model organization, or maybe we do. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of started doing this stuff. Anyway, okay, well, no. So, yeah, so there we go. That's part 3. And then we'll go ahead and finish with this, and then we'll go for the next one. And then, yeah, if you don't like how I'm doing it, please tell me how to get better. All right, there we go.